God, we are grateful to you this evening for your faithfulness towards us, for bringing us to this special moment for Amy again. Lord, you have blessed her with talents and one that she is utilizing so that we can enjoy reading. I trust, Father dear God, that in this launch, your blessings would be upon all that will be done, say here. We will be enlightened, we will be encouraged, we will be supportive. And I pray and pronounce your blessings in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit today. Amen.
Dazzle was the only child of her mother, Mom's precious gem and superstar. At school, she was known to be a leader. These positive values were instilled by her mother. Dazzle grew critically ill one day, however remained determined, come what may. She later died after a few days. Now her mother's heart was set ablaze. The emotional pain of a grieving mommy as her baby girl was called home to glory. The true love of a mother no one can replace, as loads of tears rolled down her face. A sorrowful mother being offered a seat as major tremors overtook her feet. Her grief of loss was very loud as a sudden burst of sadness overtook the crowd. A devastated mother bids her daughter goodbye, knowing they'll meet in the sweet by and by. A grieving mother faces her dead child. A broken heart, only God can reconcile. Mom stood at the graveside of her superstar, facing the reality that Dazzle is no longer with her. She immediately fainted and lost consciousness as Dazzle was laid to eternal rest. The realness of death was very eminent, as poor mother was made to bear the scent. Losing your only child is really hard, and the pain it brings is 10 times bad. Rest in peace, oh mama's baby. You were growing to be a fine young lady. The memories of you, mom will always treasure, but she will forever be a sorrowful mother. Thank you.
Good night to everybody. I know her. I've been kissed by her, marked. Similar to the kiss of poison ivy, it has paralyzed, scorched me, opened my eyes to see life differently. You can't truly explain her until you've laid in the same bed with her and felt her cold hands touch you, felt her cold lips kiss you, felt her embrace, squeeze you, suck you dry, waiting to hear the last bit of oxygen escape from your grieving lungs. She cannot be kept as a friend or lover. She's a suckstone, a real life vampire. She just wants to plunder and violate you. She is a state of feeling of grief when deprived of someone or something of value. When you think of her, death might come to your mind. But it's way more complex and a bit too difficult to digest. In fact, it might just cling to your chest like pneumonia. But first, you have to experience her. She's not a woman you can just talk about without walking through the fire that is her, exploring the depths of her, drowning in her. She comes to you with different faces and some you don't even recognize. You see her when a friend becomes an enemy, when someone important disappears from your life. Gone with time. You meet her in the form of a stillbirth, a tragic accident, a honey marriage becoming line. She's there when you're laid off, when you've been sexually exploited, assaulted. That's when you meet her. When something has been taken away from you, a job, your purity, a family member. I hope that I'm able to shed some light because I've met her several times. When you think about her, don't just visualize a funeral ceremony or a well-designed coffin. She's there in every other moment of deprivation. In fact, we all meet her way too often. She is the dark cloud of gloom, the lump in the back of your throat. She is depression, lack of sleep, your inability to focus, your lack of appetite, the tears you cry, the reason you isolate yourself. You feel her every time something is stripped away from you. You see, you've met her too. But the meeting is not as important as what you allow her to do to you. She tells you to cut your throat, cut your wrists, run away, starve yourself. She wants you to fold in and give up, cave in, and she's pretty convincing. Don't look at me so confused, and don't pretend that you two haven't communed with her, dined with her. You two have been marked and kissed by her. In fact, everyone has. She can control your very thoughts. She double crosses, puts your mind in a state of chaos. But I know you know her. Her name is Loss. Thank you.
Death. An end to a temporary existence. The beginning of life eternal. And though loved ones are gone from this earth, they roam in a realm supernal. Death's sting may seem to linger long after your loved one is gone. But it's necessary to have faith and find comfort. It won't be for so long. Don't listen to, you shouldn't cry. Never hurry to say goodbye. None will fathom the grief one bears, and oft one will wonder why. Pain may seem to grow each day, smiles may fade away, but deep within one's heart and mind, the memories will stay. Don't be discouraged or lose hope, and never live in despair. Surrounding our loved ones who want you to know that they care. So smile with anticipation through all the hurt and pain, knowing that in due time, loved ones will be met again.
I was tired of hiding, tired of wearing masks, pretending that all was what it was not. Tired of parading in the pretentious apparel of others' perceptions, sewn together by reckless tongues, feckless words that knew no bounds, and fit clumsily on my frame. Tired of answering the snide way in which they would say my name, like a curse they were forced to utter. Tired of dancing around their furtive glances, brandished like daggers, clean and polished, meant to keep me in my place. Trapped in no uncertain terms between who I was, who they said I was supposed to be, and who I wanted to become. I was tired of genuflecting on the altar of their bitter opinions, forced to participate in the communion to commemorate my weakness and shortcomings. I was tired. So one day, I rested. Retired the bits of my self-confidence that had been stripped to shreds to accommodate the ill-fitting threads of others' convictions. And in the convalescence of my mind, I removed the burden of acquiescence, no longer concerned with cowering through covering in a covert attempt to put others at ease, understanding the healing nature of trying to please me. Walking with head high in spite of eyes that made emotions weaponized, because the shield of my own self-assurance was protection enough. I no longer worshipped in the sanctuary of disdain, proud of a name that no one could destroy. Where I was once lost and tired, I finally rediscovered me and found joy. Thank you.
Find yourself. It's time to change. Turn a new page. Be conscious of self and find yourself. Others are looking at you. What are you going to do? Would you continue to remain on the shelf? Come on, man, find yourself. Drunk and disorderly. No respect for your family. Still blames others for yourself. Find yourself. Life ain't no joke. There is still a ray of hope. Take some pride in yourself and find yourself. There comes a time when life gets real. Lots of noise is around, so you must be still. Strength lies in your inner self. Recognize it and find yourself. Success in life depends on you, for there is only so much that others can do. I'm happy that you're on the road to conscious self as you journey the road of finding yourself. Thank you.
Stand up straight. Push your shoulders back, your head elevate. You're more than ordinary. Your melanin is fine like rubies. Stand up straight. Push your shoulders back, your mind, meditate. Change your thought patterns. Redefine your goals. What you feed your mind gives spiritual nutrients to your soul. Stand up straight. Push your shoulders back, your heart, recreate. Break the ice. Take the coal out of your ticker. Let this refined version of you paint the world another picture. Stand up straight. Push your shoulders back and put your finger down. Stand up straight. Push your shoulders back and plant your feet. Solid enough to leave your mark in footprints for the world to see. The woman that you are meant to be. Be bold. Be unmoved. Be unshaken. Let your ancestors smile at the truth you've awoken. Stand up straight. Push your shoulders back and let them see that this, your temple, is certified royalty.
When age brings the same reasoning that unveiled the vileness of the world to us, and the innocence of childhood can no longer protect against the harsh realities of life. When our children are faced with the task of survival and providing. When they become old enough to value money and understand that monopoly is more than a game. When they realize that a man lives again through his children, and the immortality he seeks lies in the family and the community. When they understand that they are parts of a whole and they are responsible for creating an environment for the next to thrive. When their days and nights are plagued with thoughts of uncertainty, they will look back on how much we prepared them, and our children will not forgive us. They will question us. The status of mother or father obsolete in the face of the reality. All mature enough to see failure and call it what it is. They will question our priorities and focus because they won't be able to fathom the circumstances under which they live. And our children will not forgive us. When combing the history books against the boldness of our ancestors, we will look lost, drunk, and clueless. And all our achievements in the grand scheme will count as not because what really matters has been given away. And our children will not forgive us. One day, they will be bound to the unbreakable bond of parenthood. Their children will look to them to eat and they will look to the land, only to see that there is none. And they will question our love. They know now that it is much more than words. They know now that love is the manifest of those words into action. They will see that we were plenty talk and no action. And our children will not forgive us. When they understand the concept of sacrifice, that change requires a lot of it, that it must start somewhere, that more than likely they will not live to see the fruits of their labor. They will understand us, a generation of selfies, self-love, and selfishness. And our children will not forgive us. One day they will understand that education is not the key, but a tool to be applied in the community. And skills are just as valuable as a degree. They will realize that nation building is hard work, and they will wonder why we didn't do more. And our children will not forgive us. One day they will realize the relay of life, that each man has a leg to run. They will look around and find themselves running twice as hard. And sweet memories will be dissolved by bitter facts, and pain that cannot be felt beyond the grave. And our children will not forgive us.
There. It's there. It's always there. Even when we think it's gone. Hang on. This infection, at first we laughed at, what they said could cut our population in half. It cut down a fair share of business staff and landed us into quarantine. Coronavirus from Variety 19. You see, we had taken it for granted, our day-to-day life with which we were enchanted. We remember swine flu. We were scared sore. But this is unlike that. No one was really prepared for the way it would change our lives or livelihoods, unlike in the archives. When we talk about the plague or yellow fever or Spanish flu, we have some technology and science. Corona still come true. Worse yet, who could ever suspect this? At least 14 days incubation period in which you could spread this. The uncomfortable way in which they test. The period of waiting causes further distress. Abruptly, before we could even register, how we travel and live may be changed forever. When the country locked down, some say we could rest, but locked up at home, yes, that was stress. Of course, many didn't comply and protest, but that just made it worse yet. When we opened up, you had to find out if your job was essential. It wasn't even a matter of credentials or if you're influential. COVID protocol is preferential. But we still need money to get by, and the unemployment rate is spiraling high. But when we really hear the cry, it's like the problems start to multiply. For example, the education system. The problems, let's list them. Sudden changes to how to teach, teaching apparatus economically out of reach, coping with social distance, accessing new platforms to get assistance, equipping students and teachers with tools for online, racing against regional exams and deadlines. The little line we used to make by the shop, take a drink, meet friends, and old talk had to stop. Just to ease our stress and free up the mind, nope, we have to stay inside. After all this, I find it hard to last, especially with these freaking masks. Let's make it short and done. These things spread out to everyone. Sometimes it seems like the world is beyond repair, but even then, we can probably see it's there. It's always there. Even when you think it's gone, look on. Hope isn't gone. We can carry on. We tend to look at a closed door when we can't open it anymore. Maybe there might be blessings to go for, windows, cupboards, rooms to explore. We don't like change. That is a given. We should try to accept it though while we are living. Maybe if we open our way of thinking, we can actually save our ship from sinking. The thing about people, when they feel trapped, some may give up while others adapt. To decrease contact and diminish the virus, options like WhatsApp, look at the time it buys us. Businesses now focus on your needs from the convenience of your cell phone screens. Businesses started to invest, trying to make their customer experience the best. The designers and tailors didn't even bat an eye. They made masks to sell and get by. They gave others permission to try, all by allowing themselves to shine. Instead of traveling every day in dread, we can now meet and work on Zoom instead. Many have now looked to the land. Food can spoil, now that I can understand. Eating better and regaining their health, farmers accumulating medical wealth. Entrepreneurs pop up trying to capitalize, making deliveries and try to devise ways to bring you merchandise. Some sell aroma for your masks to tantalize, to help you relax and harmonize. The point that I'm trying to emphasize is many are still alive and thriving. Gratitude is a must. In God we trust, to weather us through the storm and keep our shelter safe and warm. So when you feel the shadows stare, open your eyes and know that it's there. It's always there. Even when you think it's gone, press on to 2021. Maybe we might win this fight. Once we live, we should look to the light. Take the good from this new normal we've been granted to learn, to gain peace and success, to which we may earn. Thank you.
And making me believe that we'd be okay was part of your seduction. I opened my eyes and saw that you were more than just a whirlwind, but what I call loud. Yet I still found a way to excuse your lightning and thunder. I let your turmoil rock my very existence, but every time I came, you always made me forget how much damage you caused. You told me that I could trust you, and that change was inevitable if only I was patient with you. So you took me on a journey, forcing me to captain a sinking ship, riding waves on your emotional trips, but I stayed, and I chose you always. You over peace, you over instinct, you over truth, you over me. I made you my refuge, but you were the very thing causing me pain. We were oil and water, but consistently I tried making us interpenetrate again by adding all that I could to change the essence of who I was to suit you. Slowly not being able to recognize the person I turned into. And every chance I had to remember who you really were, you remind me why I chose to stay, why I chose to forgive, why it was so much easier to leave at any time and any given day. But your anger was never subtle. You spilled over more than once, plastering words only meant to break me. But there I was, foolishly licking your soles, putting plaster on your decade-old wounds that couldn't heal. Till you made me your punching bag, and idolized the idea that I'd change for you, keeping me emotionally bound because you knew what you knew. And on occasions you iodined my abrasions, perfecting them enough so that no one would notice, making me believe that maybe one day you'd love me, then you'd gaslight me. Yet I defended you, ultimately breaking me just a little bit more than I was already broken. You contorted what I knew myself to be to a distorted reflection I no longer recognized. So I stopped breaking me to fix you, but I fixed you only for you to break me. The moment my scars made it hard for me to identify my own self, I had to let go of you. And though it hurt, the outcome was easier than I expected. I let go of the idea of life being impossible without you, and having once again to start all over. I've forgiven myself once before, and maybe I'll try it again. For the secrets you've made me keep behind closed doors and the lies you fed me. No, I'm over the pain. I'm over the tears that thundered like rain. You came into my life like a whirlwind. Like a whirlwind formed in the center of my already catastrophic storm. But when you left as a small gray cloud with no power to spew destruction. You dissipated, and my sunshine was your disruption. Thank you.
Odyssey by Amy Jones is an anthology that takes its readers on a journey that supersedes that which is evoked by its title. While readers are indeed treated to a collection of poems organized in the familiarity of alphabetized chronology, the book surpasses this and brings real depth. Although it speaks to the toils of love and relationships, it does not linger there. The readers are treated to a multi-layered journey of discovery. At its most basic, it is a journey of self-discovery. Though the primary persona's voice vacillates between I and you, it is understood that the poems represent a mirror of self-reflection, an unbiased, unimpeded view of a naked soul. Poems like After Today, Broken, and Dear Me illustrate the tumultuous situations that the persona faces, which have prompted the internal evaluation, born out of a desire for self-amelioration. As you're trapped under the frame of a man. But here I am stuck with a broken promise again. I wish you'd forgive yourself for not knowing how to separate promise from pain. So those are some of the quotations from the poem. In the journey of understanding self, the persona digs deep, uncovering the foundational relationships that have damaged her, as is revealed in the poems Dear Mother and Now You Know, both of which are visually presented in letter form. At the end of introspection, the persona is finally able to rebuild herself, issuing stern instructions to herself in Stand Up Straight that juxtapose her personality revealed in earlier poems. She is admonished to push her shoulders back, her head elevate, because there is a caged queen inside of her. It is a beautiful recognition of self, and an endearing story of finding self-confidence and self-love. This book is perhaps most clearly encapsulated in the poem Woman, which is a microcosm of its tone and feel, and gives encouragement to every woman. And I quote, "You are much more than the world has painted you to be. You are the backbone of a crooked society. You have and will always be strength and power, beauty and brains." The writing in this anthology strikes a delicate balance. It is written simply, yet its phrasing evokes deep feeling in the readers, who can easily empathize and sympathize with the yearning of the persona for love, both from within and from those who surround her. The use of rhyme changes from poem, subtle in some, as is the case with Gaslight Me, while quite present in others, such as Cold and At This Juncture. This rhythmic journey carries readers from one poem to another and allows them to digest the heavy themes discussed. The collection is not afraid to tackle social issues. It highlights violence against women, fractured family issues, manhood, and dysfunctional relationships, among others. It is presenting on a pleasing literary platter that engages readers visually with the use of color, while treating them to different poetic structures that even casual readers can enjoy. This technique culminates in the last alphabet poem, Zulu Love, which softens the blow of the fact that such an interesting anthology has come to an end. The poet also treats readers to a cento at the back of the book. A cento is a poem crafted by using the lines from other poems. Now You've Read Me, A to Z, which you saw with the video at the beginning of this, is in and of itself the dedication of time and effort to self, the willingness to do the work in order to obtain the results. Amy has once again produced a piece of writing that deserves to be installed into the annals of Grenadian literature. It should be celebrated, shared, studied, and discussed. As a reader, I am thankful that she chose to share this collection with us. But as a friend, I am immensely proud of this work of art. Kudos, my friend, kudos.
I have the pleasure of reading, actually editing a bit of the A to Z anthology, and Odyssey, sorry. It was called Anthology before. And when I first read it, I had many questions, as I'm sure you will. And for a brief moment, I wondered whether or not our author would want to share something so weighty. Because in Grenada, we tend to shy away from talking about the weightier things. And in asking myself that question, I realized the purpose of this book. So I am a career educator. I'm an educator by choice. But I also spend a lot of time working with business persons, young entrepreneurs. And as a business developer, I often find myself telling young and new entrepreneurs that while they would create a product, and that product may be useful for anyone, your target market at inception is never, ever, everyone. And I'm pleased, very, very pleased to tell you that this book is not for everyone. This book is raw, it's weighty, it's real, it's life. And if you have a habit of cowering away from the things that you have experienced and that others have experienced that may not sit so comfortably on your heart, then you're going to run from a book like this. And I trust that just by hearing this, you're now peaked at what is inside this. You got a snapshot, but you haven't felt the weight of this book just yet. It's an honest journey through a character's life. Now, we have an alphabetized series from A to Z, 26 poems. But I did not read this book as an anthology. I read this book as one story, one character. And the book is, it's so good that each poem can stand alone by itself, and each poem carries its weight by itself, and it carries its message by itself, and you can delve into each poem and you can pull so much out of it. But when you knit those pieces together, you, as the reader, starts wondering, how did we get here? What could have caused this? Where do we move from here? What if this were me? What if this were my child? How would I deal with this? And these are only some of the questions that were aroused within me while I was going through this book. The fact that Amy was able to put into such simple language what is so very real to every one of us is enough to bring a person to tears, especially if you can directly relate to what goes on in this poem. Now, I took a few days to read the entire anthology because of its weight, and the truth is, I wouldn't say that I read it as much as I consumed it, because it's a meal, but it's not a meal that you can just sit down and gobble up in one sitting. It's a meal that you need to take your time with. You eat a piece now, you let that settle on your stomach, and then you go back again, because it calls you back again. You can't stop until you're finished. You have to eat. It's a necessary meal that you have to consume. But I promise you that it's not something that you can do and should do in one sitting. The entire anthology, it takes you from an external strength that's pressing down on you in that first poem, After Today. There's hands on necks. There's external strength pressing down on a human being, and it travels through relationships in this character's life, and it pulls an internal strength out of her that causes her to forcefully stand up and realize, hey, I've made some choices. Life may have dealt me some bad hands, but I've also made some very poor choices. It brings you face to face with yourself. And then at the end, and this is the part that I really love, because I am a human being who loves hope. And Amy doesn't just go through a series of depressing poems that just leaves you wanting to commit suicide at the end. But at the end, you feel that there is hope, that there is life after all that you may have endured and have endured through your own lives. And for that single reason, I earnestly and honestly believe everyone in here needs to read this book. I think I'll leave it there.
Most of the poems might have been a little heavy, and I usually try to give a disclaimer that I do not always write about myself, but I write for women. So sometimes you may have a question, Amy, go through this? No. I'm writing for our women, our black women in our society. There are a lot of experiences that I have, vicarious experiences I've had through friends, through relatives, looking at shows, looking at movies, having discussions with others, and it comes to mind and I write. So in case that was probably one of the questions, I'm answering it early. Alright? So what I did was I asked persons to write one question that they would like to ask me, and I'm going to answer it. Now, I have had 2 book launches before, and I've spent time writing speeches, and I feel like sometimes we talk about what we want people to hear and never really address what people actually want to know. So I'm giving everybody an opportunity to ask a question. Persons have done so before. If you have a question, I would allow at least 3 persons an opportunity to ask a question. Alright? So Russel is going to pick and I will hopefully answer.
Question number 1. What was the most difficult period you faced while writing this?
Wow, good question. Not sure who that was from. Most difficult period was COVID. But this was the outcome of COVID. I took, how long Russel? Russel was working with me during the period of time, so I started writing, most of the poems were from years ago, but there were some that I wrote along the way. So I started writing probably in March, and I ended in July. I think on the 27th, the book was published. Right, so just a couple months. This was the most difficult time I've had. Why was that the most difficult time? I was inside. I like being inside, but sometimes, wow, you like being inside, but you still like the freedom. So there was inside and there was no freedom. So it was an extremely difficult period for me.
What is your writing process like?
Writing process, alright. So I either write, I think, then I feel, or I feel, I think, then I write. What does that mean? Like I said initially, I'm very observant. So I may see something that piques my interest. I like to think about it first. Then it may take a couple minutes, hours, maybe a few days, then I start penning it. And then there's a process of, I don't like this poem, because you give somebody to read and they like it, so you keep it. But you're reading it and you don't really like it. So that's usually what my process is like. I either write first, I think, then I feel first, sometimes I think and then I write.
So we have several people who asked about the inspiration, but you kind of answered that already, so I'll ask this one. What or who was your biggest influence or support during the conception of this book? Well, you have better say me.
So, let me tell you, Kamille and Russel have always, okay, we are members of the Writers Association. Outside of being friends, take it easy now. I mean, it has gone to pass around to everybody else. Kamille and Russel have been friends from Writers Association. I knew Kamille through church. But these are my pillars when I write, honestly. I have support of my family members, right? But when it comes to writing, persons who understand writing, these are my pillars. So I might bounce a poem of Kamille because I can't bring it to Russel because he's too critical. So I may give him, if I need like critical information, I'll check Russel. If I need honest, poetic information, I'll obviously check Kamille. So these are my 2 favorite genres. And cousins, yes.
What advice do you have for persons interested in becoming writers?
Alright, don't let anybody tell you that your work is not good enough. That is the first thing I tell persons. You are unique in your own way. Now how Kino writes, I cannot write like that, right? And that poem Mr. Richardson did, the second one, I think he wrote it the night I asked him to write. I cannot do that. Your style of writing, if you're a budding writer, is yours. It's different, it's unique, and it's for you. And it's something that I was always told, and Kamille mentioned the same thing to me this afternoon. You reach who you have to reach. Sometimes your flavor is not for everybody. You reach who you have to reach, and that's applicable to every aspect of your life. Where you need to be and who you need to reach, you'll reach them. So don't let anybody discourage you from writing. I remember when I was publishing my first book, there were persons who said, oh, you don't have enough money to do this, and you can't do that. You sure you want to write about this? You sure people would think this poem is about you? But sometimes when you allow other person's opinions to stop you, then you kill the whole vibe of the whole thing. So I remember in my first book, there was a poem called Eyes. Men hated that poem. And I read it before I actually put it in the book, and everybody was like, you sure you put this in? And I did, and it reached who it was meant to reach.
Sorry, traumatic experience. What are your creative limitations?
Oh, there's more.
There's more. So you go outside the box, or are you bounded by intent?
That's deep though. Creative limitations, like I said before, sometimes I find myself second guessing what I write. So I can throw something away easily if I don't let somebody read it for me. The second thing is I get writer's block very easily because I have so much things going on up here. So I may need to write something for someone for an event, and I am stuck, and if I don't pull myself out of that position, I remain there. So that's one of the greatest challenges that I have as a writer. I asked if I was, in the box or in the box? Or no?
Do you go outside the box, or are you bounded?
Oh, no, I go outside the box. I go outside the box. I always write outside of the box.
Thanks. So, probably not going to want to answer this one, but which of the poems were inspired by real life feelings?
Okay. Let's see by one. Why? The people want to know.
Zulu love.
Wow. E. Empty. Yes, when you buy the book, you'll read empty, and that is real life experience.
We have another one.
There's
the next one.
There's another one?
Yeah,
No,
that's
it's,
another one.
wow, y'all put me on the spot.
See.
I am not okay. L, what is yours? L, love blindly, and you, until we meet again. No, actually I wrote until we meet again for someone else. I think that's it. I don't know why you keep talking about Zulu, but that's it, honestly.
How did you feel writing that book?
Wow, very good. Stressful experience, but it was one of the most fulfilling experiences I've had because I felt like a phoenix rising out of the ashes of COVID-19. I was very proud of myself, knowing that I was able to pull through a stressful experience and have something positive to show for it.
Nice. So somebody asked about how long it took, but you also touched on that. We have two questions here on publishing. So what are some of the challenges that you faced when publishing? And how hard is it to be a published author in Grenada?
Wow. So, second question first is the most we all Grenadians in it. The most stressful aspect of being a writer and publisher in Grenada is our customs. And Kamille is also an author, so Mr. Ambrose says the same thing as well. Now, you write a book, you get a very reasonable publisher, and when it's time to get your books into the country, you're spending a lot more money than anticipated, more than you put out, more than you had budgeted for. Sometimes you're not even sure how much you actually have to pay to get your books in. And we are honest people, so we try not to doctor our invoices and all that. And we are sometimes caught in the middle of doing the right thing and having to burn a hole in our empty pockets. And the first part of the question was,
what are some of the challenges you face when publishing?
This book or generally?
This one is general.
Challenges, writer's block, feeling like your book is too weighty for persons, feeling like people will think all of your pieces are about you, questioning whether or not it makes sense to publish another book. Do I have the money to get the books in? Would people want to read my work? So that's some of the challenges that I have experienced. Yeah?
So, our final, somebody cheated by stripping the paper in half and asking 2 questions. Alright, so I'll ask this one first. Are there any particular spaces or environments that bring inspiration from you?
I don't think so. I write mostly in my room, but I don't think I'm bounded to that. I think if I go somewhere and I have an idea or something inspires me, I'm able to write anywhere.
Okay, thanks. This one has to do with COVID-19. So has COVID in fact impacted the sale of your books? Negatively, positively, both? And has the new normal affected your creative process for better?
Okay. Sales, that's for sales, right? Right. In a sense, yes. From past experiences, I have been able to sell as soon as you get them in, and persons would want them. But now it was a matter of waiting for the publisher, waiting on the books to be printed, waiting on the books to be shipped, waiting for them to actually come in. There was a lot of waiting. So there was that challenge. And yes, I think this has to be one of my favorites. Out of my 3 books, this is my favorite because, like I said, it made me believe that anything is possible. And that our circumstances and challenges that we experience, we are not bound by them. We're able to elevate and achieve whatever we need to or want to. Yeah? So I'm giving the floor is open for 3 persons. 3 persons, if 10 minutes, you want a question answered, I will do so. Good night, Miss Money.
Other than getting in touch with your feelings, what other things inspire your writing?
Okay. Other than getting in touch with my feelings, what other things inspires my writing? Alright, so the first, I hope everybody picked up that this is A to Z as in 26 poems, all for a letter in the alphabet. So A would have been written for the 16 days of activism, gender-based violence. And I have, you see it in movies, you hear it from your friends, persons around, even, for some people on their jobs, you hear about violence. And it was one of the things that piqued my interest to write a little bit more about. Because we have a thing in our society where things happen, but we shy away from them. So that's one of the things that would have influenced my writing. Does that answer your question? Alright. Anybody else? It's alright if you don't want to. Alright, so that's about it for the book. And I'm just gonna give you a synopsis. A to Z Odyssey is a collection of poems which takes its readers on a journey from pain to a promising end. A to Z Odyssey embraces an idea of what one's journey through life may sometimes feel like. Though simply constructed as a child's ABC, the book highlights how the seriousness of abuse, family structures, cultural beliefs, and other variations ultimately affect what happens and what may be allowed and experienced in relationships and situations with our family. So this is the unofficial end of my book launch. I do hope that each one of you were able to take something and go away with it. I hope that it was at least interesting as I hope it to be. So I want to say thanks to a few persons, Pastor Ronnie Bennet and Alex Thomas for catering. Just a little bit, Alex works at the Pot in Grandland, right? If you're all in town and you all need something scrumptious to eat, check the Pot. Alright, Alex is right there. You don't want to leave Alex. Right? So, if you all want something in St. George, this is the person to call up. Kamille John, Russel John for reviewing, editing, and everything else y'all do. Pyrodize GND for videography. Rose Bagwan, Ezra Braffett for the short film that you were able to produce, including Kamille, and Troy Jason Productions. Art by K. Alexis for the art pieces that you may see around. There are prices at the back of them if you are interested. Mr. Alexis said that these are Christmas specials and they are going for half price. Members of the Writers Association, Shamal Copeland and Aquino Romain. David Ambrose of the Published Authors of Grenada. Astra Dubisette on piano and painting, and Giselle for painting as well. Anderson Richardson and Mrs. Richardson for catering, and also for lovely poetry today. Pipeline Productions and Christabel Apartments who assisted us with the film. So I thank you all for being a part of this event. We have some refreshments at the back for you. Sorry? And why Kalina allow me to leave out? Kalina is like my, I think he's a speaker, I didn't see you know. Kalina is like my baby sister, my big sister, my everything. I love Kalina a lot. So Kalina, thank you for being a part of this event. Kalina also has a book that is supposed to be published soon as well. Put our hands together for Kalina. Books on sale. A to Z Odyssey is $45. Chains That Bind and Beyond Fables Poetry are my other two books. They are also on sale. Chains That Bind is a Grenadian novel, fictitious Grenadian novel. If you like our tales that your parents and grandparents used to tell you about Larger Bliss and Sukuya and all that, that's the book for you. $40. Beyond Fables Poetry is my very first book and it costs $25. And we also have a special. If there are persons in here that has never bought any one of my books, you get the 3 of them for $100, cheaper than if you buy all of them together. So if you're interested, you get them. I also have a display table with books from other Grenadian and Caribbean authors. Kamille's 2 books are on the table along with others. I hope to have Kalina's one there very soon. Right? So you can feel free to view them if you buy and you want to come up this side and signings up here. Alright? So thank you again and have a great evening. Get your books, get your refreshments, mingle, ask your questions, and see somebody you haven't seen in a long time and enjoy yourself for the rest of the evening.